We need to get out of here. We need to get to that.
Majini are the main enemies that you'll be encountering in the game Resident Evil 5, being the most abundant enemies that you'll be facing in the game. Majini as a term originates from the Swahili language and translates to wicked people, a fitting name for this game's souped-up zombie surrogates.
They're coming! Hold on!
The story of the Majini begins first with the story of the Ganado, for it's thanks to a parasite known as Las Plagas that the Majini are in existence at all. To briefly summarize, Las Plagas hails from a region in rural Spain, where many years ago it was worshipped as a deity to a cult known as Los Iluminados. In 2004, current members of the cult recovered the long-thought-dead parasite and were using it for nefarious means before their plans came crashing down thanks to an American agent known as Leon S. Kennedy. However, during the agent's conflict with the cult, a third party was involved in the chaos. A woman known as Ada Wong was working on behalf of a man named Albert Wesker and managed to retrieve a sample of the parasite and escape. With Wesker now in control of the sample, he and a conglomerate company he was working with, known as Tricell, began working on improving the abilities of the parasite. Eventually, their labor bore fruit, and 2 new strands of the parasite were created, those strands being simply known as Plaga Type 2 and Plaga Type 3.
Chris to HQ, do you copy?
This is HQ. Excellent work out there. We'll analyze the data immediately.
This whole town's gone to hell. The people here, they're acting like those Ganado detailed in the Kennedy report. And aside from that, there's something new, something we've never encountered before.
Our transportation has been taken out too. Requesting a mission update.
The mission stands.
The 2 new Plaga types were created as a means to enhance the abilities of Las Plagas, with perhaps the most important enhancement being how quickly the parasite would mature. The original Plaga would take days to mature into full adulthood, a process that would allow for the removal if a person had the equipment and the know-how to do so. These new Plaga types had no such drawback, however, typically only taking a few moments from the time that the parasite is forcibly ingested to the time that the host is taken over.
Freeze! Are you okay?
Plaga Type 3 was made as a way to further improve upon the capabilities of Plaga Type 2, with hosts of the parasite becoming stronger. However, there were many issues with its application. Plaga Type 3 had a much lower adherence rate, killing every woman and child that it was tested on, and only being compatible with around 92% of adult males. Still, it served its purpose and created more capable fighters in those whom the parasite could get a foothold. Chris and Sheva will encounter many different types of Majini as they make their way through Africa. But to start with the first group of Majini that they will encounter, we don't know much about how the people in the town initially became infected. However, speculation would tell us that members of Tricell, specifically people such as Irving, began by forcibly infecting a few of the villagers. This in turn causing a chain of infection, with other infected taking it upon themselves to further infect others until the parasite had been spread to everyone. This process happened over time, as we can tell from the blog posts of a foreign worker to the town named Adam. His posts recounting things that he sees and experiences in Kijuju, the villagers getting more violent over time, doing things like dismembering animals and leaving their carcasses on the street, even degrading to the point where it was common practice to hold public executions for a cheering crowd.
我哪有随演技呀？带着你走，不是我哦，你这哈呢？ You don't know what you're talking about. You can all go to hell.
Wait a minute. That's the...
People, for what? 我哪有主意啊？
The second major group of Majini are members of the Nitapaya tribe, a local tribe in West Africa located in the marshlands outside the city of Kijuju. The Nitapaya have a long and storied history with the region, beginning many years before the events of the game. For starters, thousands of years ago, the sovereign Nitapaya kingdom ruled over all of the surrounding lands, with their crowning achievement being the city in ruins, which touted architectural marvels way before their time. At the head of this kingdom sat, of course, a king. However, this king was not determined by birthright, and was instead deemed worthy if he could complete a certain ceremony. This ceremony involved eating a plant that grew in the deepest parts of the royal kingdom, a plant which was known to them as the Stairway to the Sun. This sacred plant was extremely poisonous to anyone who consumed it. Nearly everyone who attempted the ceremony failed. However, according to the Nitapaya, there was one man who managed to survive the fatal poison. The flower changed him, granting him inhuman abilities, and with these gifts, it's said that he ruled over the Nitapaya for centuries.
What is this place?
How can they survive underground?
Eventually, the Nitapaya lost their prominence in the region, and for reasons lost to time, they abandoned the city of ruins to live in the marshlands. The remaining Nitapaya vowed to keep the city a secret from the outside world, with a tradition beginning where males of the tribe between the ages of 13 and 25 being sent down to protect the city of ruins for 2 years of their lives. Unfortunately for the Nitapaya, however, nothing remains a secret forever. In the 1960s, a corporation somehow learned of the Nitapaya's secret city and the miraculous plant that grew inside. The corporation infiltrated the city and attempted to take the plant by force. The Nitapaya fought fiercely, but their weapons were no match for those carried by the invaders. And in the end, the tribe was forced to cede this sacred land to the corporation. Years passed, and the Nitapaya's luck continued to run dry. A company known as Tricell had begun taking up residence in the land. Forming some kind of deal with the Nitapaya, they tricked them into ceding most of the inhabitable land in the area for an oil field, forcing the tribe to sink further back into the marshlands where deadly crocodiles roamed. And though at first the Nitapaya were wary and angry with the company, in time a relationship between the two groups began to grow. Tricell would help the tribe from time to time, doing things like building a gondola so that they could navigate the swamps more easily. So, when a man from the Tricell-owned oil field showed up to the tribe one day, offering an inoculation for a disease that would be hitting the area soon, the tribe accepted it graciously. They were taken to the oil field and injected with what they thought was a life-saving medicine. But what it actually was Plaga Type 3. When they arrived back to the village, it didn't take long for them to notice that things weren't as they seemed. The children had all come down with fevers, the women tending to them, but to no avail. The village chief left for the oil field to ask if the children died from the infection, only to be told that it was the disease that had claimed their lives. They were told that they needed another round of injections, but these inoculations didn't help either. The women of the village died from the plaga, the men becoming more violent by the day, dressing as their ancestors used to dress, donning war paint, their minds becoming completely subservient to the parasites within. The final group of Majini that Chris and Cheval will encounter on their adventures through Africa are the soldier Majini. Unlike the other two groups of Majini, we know very little about where these soldiers came from, how they became infected, or anything of the sort. All that we really know is that these Majini are very well organized and advanced enough to the point that they know how to use firearms. Aside from where these Majini come from, it's also worth noting some things about their mutations. While we don't know much about why or how certain mutations occur within the bodies of Majini, there are several that we encounter. The cephalo is a long insect-like appendage that protrudes from the head of Majini that have been infected with Plagas Type 2. This parasite violently flails around, controlling the host's body, using its length to attack from a distance.
Are you okay?
The Kipipio is a grotesque winged amalgamation that has the ability of flight. These parasites are known to burst from the bodies of Majini that have been infected with Plagas Type 2 as well. This parasite will attack its prey by grabbing them with its lower torso, which resembles something of a claw. The final parasite that plagues certain members of the Majini is known as the Duvali, an armor-like parasite that can encase its weak insides with its nearly indestructible appendages. This mutation comes from Plagas Type 3 and will crush its prey by grabbing them with its armor-like appendages and crushing them in short range. This is essentially all that we know of the Majini. They take heavy cues from their ancestors in Spain, with some notable differences. But, like their predecessors, these creatures are deadly. Individually, they may not seem like much of a threat, but when they work together, they become a true force to be feared.